Welcome back to the Real Mark Bagwell, a wrestling docuseries. I'm your host, the chosen lawyer, the guy with the flex. That's not Mark
Ooh,
Bagwell.
look out.
And and my co-host today, endorsed, maybe not, by the North Face and Under Armour cousin Jerry Hood. Jerry, welcome back to the Real Mark Bagwell.
Thanks for having me. I got my North Face on. It's a little chilly. No big deal. We picked these up. I think they had them on sale somewhere. Walmart. I don't know. Richway. I don't know where I got it. I don't know where they have them. I don't know.
Do the
But
deer do the deer complain about the temperature at all, or are they pretty quiet up there?
wow, no complaints. They've got an easy life here on the farm. I mean, walk around on free property, eat 10,000 pounds of corn per month. Uh, and just they've got an easy life here. They love it. We love it. And here we are. What's up with you?
What's up with me, buddy? I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, as you
Ooh,
know. But I'm
yeah.
heading over to Arizona very, very soon. I'm going to balmy temperatures because the World Baseball Classic 2023 is coming. And the opening round is being played in 4 different destinations, including in Phoenix, Arizona. So I will be hanging out with Steve Carsey and Kareem Garcia, two former MLB players. And we're going to be watching us some opening round of the World Baseball Classic. We have Canada, US, Mexico, Colombia, and I think South Africa, if I'm not mistaken. And two teams are going to be advancing. So my money is on Team USA. And I think Canada and Mexico are going to be a dogfight, but I'm going to go with Team Mexico on this one. Sorry, A. But Kareem's crew, I think, is going to take it.
Yeah, USA for sure, no doubt. Um, I don't know what I'm doing that weekend, but I'm kind of down and out. I'd love to go to that. I'm inviting myself, kind of, if you will. Shout out to Steve Carsey.
I
But
mentioned you before. If you can make it to Arizona, March, it's being played between I think March 5 and 15, something around there. So if you can make it your way to Phoenix, Arizona, there's going to be golf, there's going to be baseball, there's going to be a couple
wow,
beverages. Maybe we'll be sipping on some of the rocks tequila. You never ever know. You're always
ooh,
welcome, Jerry Hood. We'll have
Terramana.
we'll
It'll
have a
cost
blast.
$10,000 in jet fuel to fly this jet out there. And there's plenty of airports in that vicinity. We checked that out before. Well, we need to once we get a little closer, which we're not that far away. We need to look at that and see what's going on. We're back importing liquor and alcohol, and that's a big deal right now. We're getting stuff out of Canada, a lot of stuff out of Scotland, a lot of stuff out of Iceland. So we got a lot of stuff going on with Johnny Walker and Crown Royal, but never too busy to play, as you know. I try to do what I can, and so we need to check that out for sure.
Well, Mr. Walker is very busy keeping people happy, I believe, but we will leave that for now. And on our sister show, The Chosen Journey with Steve Carsey, I found him. Kareem Garcia from Texas is going to be joining us as a guest over 3 chapters. And we're going to be talking about the life and times of Kareem Garcia with Steve Carsey. They were teammates together on 2 teams. You know which teams they were, Jerry Hood?
They were teammates on the uh, 2 different teams. Okay. Um, I was going to say the Montreal Expos to try to get you to laugh, but no, St. Louis Cardinals and the Arizona Diamondbacks.
And so, first of all, neither of them ever played on the St. Louis Cardinals. Kareem Garcia was drafted in the expansion draft by the Arizona Diamondbacks. He
Correct.
hit a home run in the Diamondbacks' first home game, by the way. Pretty freaking cool.
Wow.
But Steve Carsey never played on either of those teams. They played together on New York Yankees and the Cleveland Indians, who are now the Cleveland Guardians.
That's what I was going to say.
Another cool little stat. Do you recall the bench clearing brawl between the Yankees and Red Sox once upon a time when Pedro Martinez shoved 70-plus-year-old Don Zimmer on the ground?
I just saw that. It accidentally popped up on my feed.
Well, because
Wow.
I was watching it on the weekend and our stuff is connected. That's why, Jerry Hood. And guess
Yes.
what? Who it all began because Kareem Garcia got hit in. So everything started from Kareem Garcia. That was pretty freaking cool. Plus, having going to be watching World Baseball Classic, go back into YouTube and type in Team Mexico Canada WBC Brawl. Kareem Garcia was involved in a brawl in the opening round one year between Team Canada and Team Mexico. So Kareem Garcia is a scrapper. I love it.
I didn't know that. Wow. I'm definitely going to Google that or YouTube it. And you just got them about 1 million views. Somebody's going to go and see that for all the baseball fans. But I didn't know Steve Carsey and Garcia had any ties. I did not.
I was a
That is something.
huge Garcia fan, and we're talking, and then I go pull up their stats, and I messaged Steve, and I said, Steve, you played with Kareem, did you not? He goes, yeah, he's a good guy, actually. And when I messaged Kareem, he's like, oh my God, I have not seen Steve since 1992. And guess
Holy
what?
moly.
When they come on the air together, Jerry Hood, you know what's the hilarious thing? They have not seen each other in 30 years. I'm reuniting Garcia and Steve for the first time. And as lo and behold will happen, Steve is in Arizona. That's where he lives. And Kareem is coming to watch his Team Mexico because his brother-in-law is a trainer for Team Mexico. They're going to reunite in person, the three of us. Isn't that fabulous?
That'll be fun. I think you did that. The producers put something together with Scott Burrell. How
For
long had that been before they had seen, since they had?
in rookie ball in St. Catharines, Ontario, back in the late 80s. They had not seen each other since 89, I believe. How
Incredible.
and you know what's funny? When they came on the air with each other, it's they did not skip a beat. It's like they just saw each other yesterday. And then for the
Yeah, I
first
saw
while,
it.
we did a group text message, and then Burrell he's coaching college basketball, and then it's hard to hear from him. But it's all good. It's all good. And speaking of friends and lifelong friends, because the truth of the matter is, besides baseball and wrestling, is there anything else to life, Jerry Hood?
No, vehicles and property. That's about, and airplanes. If you can.
And maybe exercise and nutrition. So, talking about lifelong friends, you and I becoming close friends, obviously, and brothers essentially, and the kinship
Sure.
you have with Mark, the way you're brothers essentially, even though you're first cousins. Another person who is in the picture in Mark's life, and Eric Bischoff touched upon it. We talked about last week about the interview between Conrad Thompson, Eric Bischoff, and Buff Bagwell that aired recently on 83 Weeks. Again, that was episode 254. Heavily advise people to watch that. If you're a fan of Buff Bagwell, it's must watch TV. They talked about the friendship and brotherhood between Buff and Lex Luger, and Lex Luger loves Buff Bagwell. Do you notice, by the way, the trend, Jerry Hood? The people who don't know Buff may not like him, and they may say things. The ones who truly know him all say the same thing. They love him. He's a gentleman, and they're lifelong connected. And Lex Luger, I did not know this. He text messages Buff every single day. That's how close they are. So you listen. The proof's in the pudding, right? You saw them recently at Buff's birthday party, right? Number 52, if I'm not mistaken, right? Buff turned 52. 52, 53.
53.
53, sorry. So we got
Born
the big
1970.
so we got the big birthday bash, right? DDP's hosting it. You're over there at the accountability crib, and Lex Luger's there. Tell us about how Lex is doing over there, how they were connecting, what he had to say about Buff. Did he say any words? Today's all about Lex, and let's hear about the kinship between Lex and Buff, please.
Lex, first class act. I mean, he's still to this day giving his life, to God, and he's very religious. And I pulled in, like I said, we hid at the accountability crib, and Lex was in a white Mercedes as big as you can build one. I'm not a Mercedes guy, so I don't shop for those. But a beautiful car, and I was right there next to Lex, And like I said, we were one of the first ones in, and we chit chatted a little bit beforehand, and the stories and Lex, and we talked about the Buffalo Bills, and I told him I thought the Bills would win it all this year, and I think the Bills uh, had a better team than the Super Bowl champion. I now ownership for my some of the ownership for my company and everything. They're co-owners or whatever. They're big in Kansas City and have been, and they'll probably give me some beef about that. But Lex and Mark were special and still are. And Lex more or less being and doing whatever he was, whoever he wanted to be, and he could do whatever he wanted. And he was, he's one of a kind. And he took Mark under his wing, and they were like, peanut butter and jelly. It was them. Where there was one, there was the other. I don't know if Eric Bischoff had any thing to do with that, because there were different shows all the time, all over, and everybody didn't make every show. There might be a Thursday night taping in Atlanta downtown at an auditorium. There might be something going on Monday Nitro at the Dome. There's, there, and it just, everybody was everywhere, but it always ended up with Lex and Buff Bagwell together. And everybody knew them, there as far as it worked. Any of the other wrestlers, they knew if you saw one, you saw the other. They competing against each other as a friendly little deal to who's got the best outfit, who's got the best shirt, bringing this out, bringing that out, who's the
got
biggest,
the best
who's got
physique,
the best body and physique, who's the best, who's got the best diet. And I don't know about Lex, but I know how Mark was with me when we lived together as far as my dietitian and nutritionist. He is hardcore. There is no, well, we'll cheat on it today and we'll do better tomorrow. Or let's eat clean today, bro. And then we'll do you go for about 30 straight days of nothing but salads and water and no fruit, no sugar that, any kind of carbs. It just, oh God, I'd have to sneak out and ride my bicycle to Dairy Queen to get a blizzard and not let him know, but it was hard. But Lex and Mark, the success. My only question for Eric Bischoff would be, as close as they were, Lex and Marcus, why not them more together than they were? Why not? I don't know how everything happened and when it happened, as far as a timeline with Lex and how everything kind of went down, and but just early on, it could have been big, really huge. But Lex cares a lot about Marcus, and they do talk a good bit. Same thing. I watch their faces. It's good to see when Marcus came into the birthday party and he didn't know who was there, all the big faces and the big names. And when he saw Lex, it was a different type of look. It was, oh my God, he went straight to him. You could just see how thankful that he was that Lex made it. And Lex the same way, his look. And like I say, you saw some of the photographs that my agent sent over, I guess. The faces were so lit up and happy. It was a great time. I guess when Lex and I said goodbye or whatever, he's very genuine and just a great person. And, just a friend of Marcus's, and just, it's second to none. I don't know how they clicked so well together, but they did. And it was good to see Lex at the birthday party and DDP as well. So we had a blast.
we shared those pictures on the social media for our law firm Kormans LLP, as well as the chosen lawyer, and they were great photos, Jerry Hood. We appreciate you sharing those with everyone, and everyone
No
looked
doubt.
fantastic and had a great time. And that's where, again, Mark is where he needs to be. It is, the success story starting with Jake the Snake, and then you look at Scott Hall, and you consider Lex Luger where he was at, and Mark is the latest, reincarnation by DDP, and everybody DDP Dutches, you stay with DDP, you're going to go far. And Eric Bischoff and Conrad Thompson talked about this on 83 Weeks. And DDP is something very, very special, not just to the wrestling community, but to the world as a whole. He's not asking for anything in return with it. He's giving back, taking people that he cares about, and it's so fantastic to watch. Now, Lex Luger, we talked about this in a previous chapter. Remember, I had a brain incarnation for it. We devoted a chapter talking about, remember, Faith and Buff Bagwell. Because Buff, talked about every time when he was young and he got a paycheck, he always got down on one knee and thanked God for it. And I asked you, what is the relationship between God and Buff Bagwell and religion and Buff Bagwell? And lo and behold, when Buff came on and talked about Lex Luger, talked about how Lex texts him every day, but he doesn't just text him every day. He sends him biblical little messages and inspirational
Scripture.
messages, right? Little passages. Right. And so it's so great to see that they're sharing religion and faith together, because you think about Lex Luger, man, you want to talk about Buff Bagwell going through his trials and tribulations, folks. Lex Luger should be dead 10 times over, considering what happened to him and how things went down. And it shouldn't have gone down that way, but it did. And Lex could easily be sitting in a corner somewhere and either not want to continue on or feel sorry for himself and look at pictures of where he was at. And, you look at him now, he's a shell of where he was at physically, but mentally he's stronger than ever. He's not giving up. And that's very inspirational. I mean, you consider Mark where he's at. Mark is not a shell of where he was at. Mark still looks in great shape. Mark is 52, and he's in better shape than most 32-year-olds. So, it's great that they can inspire each other that way. And Lex is just such a great friend for him. Two things I want to bring up now. Number one is just answer your question. Why did they not continue on together? Because I agree. I like that pairing. But you know what, Jerry Hood? I think we cling to the idea of the ideal pairing. And the ideal pairing would have been Lex Luger in his prime and Buff Bagwell in his prime. The problem was Lex was a little later in the career already, having gone through his trial and tribulations in WWF, going to WCW, and he was in back and forth, and it was hard to build momentum for him at that point, He was already over. He was now at the point where it was going to start bringing other people over, not him as much. And I think it wasn't the best place for Buff Bagwell. I think he needed somebody younger and somebody that was going to be more over with him. It was that kind of pairing. But if you had Lex a little bit earlier in his career with Buff, would have been ideal, but you can't always time these things. Considering where Buff and Scott Steiner were at, I mean, the chemistry, everything else, that was a fantastic pairing. That's what it always comes back to. And that's my comparison point. I know people like Stars and Stripes and they like various incarnations, obviously the American males. And my favorite tag team partner was Scott Steiner for Buff, just because I love the chemistry on air, because Buff was money in the bank. You knew he's going to grab a mic. He never screws up. He never botched his lines. He was money in the bank talking, and he delivered in the ring. And they were just a great pairing that way. And him and Lex never got the chance to, on camera as a tag team, really get that time and energy to be able to really gel, unfortunately. This time was not on their side. The same way where Buff was in the last faction of WCW, I'm trying to remember what the name was, but Ric Flair was heading it up. And there's a few people that they started to put together there, but that thing never went either, because as soon as they put it together, WCW was over. But imagine Buff Bagwell in a Ric Flair faction. Oh, those two would have been dynamite together long term.
Oh, for sure. No doubt. Absolutely no doubt. You left one thing out on the Buff Bagwell with a microphone. He never rehearsed an interview. They asked him the question. Gosh, I like to think I'm good. Sometimes I'll read your mind and I'm ready to speak. And but he's a great speaker. What a great color personality he would be, for WWE. Man, he would hog the mic like I do sometimes, and I'm okay with that. But a few things in the works, and hopefully it'll work out for him. But
if I have to put in one place, I'm telling you, it's the young guys with the ultimate physiques that need to get over. Buff is their manager. Buff leads them to the ring. Buff gives them the wisdom, puts them over. That's where we got to be at. I think he would be but he could also do ring announcing. He could be a color commentator, backstage announcer. But I would like to see him. His magic was coming to the ring. Even remember when he was injured and he couldn't do much, as far as physically wise in the ring, but he still came with the NWO. When he comes to the ring and does a strut, and the camera loves him, and the way he talks, for those younger guys with a good physique that can't really talk, he can be their mouthpiece and bring them forward. I think WWE would be cashing in gold with him. And that's where I'm so happy to see that Mark is on the road now in indie wrestling. He's doing appearances now, doing live events, and the road is starting to get paid for him to do a return. I can see it for him. He just sticks doing to what he's doing, and folks, you're going to see him back in a professional ring, likely WWE one day, and he's going to be your TV screen is going to love him.
Oh, the fans will go crazy about that. Um, his agent had a few things in the works and still going, but just has not heard anything back as far as going forward with that. But the good ideas, them talking back and forth both sides, with new ownership, if that officially takes place with WWF and Saudi Arabia, then who knows what'll happen. But with different people in place, let's move a few people around. Let's put Eric Bischoff in. Let's put someone else in. Let's move a few people around. The writers of that show, from the color people, the announcers, from the ring announcers to the referees to the wrestlers, all the way to the managers, Eric Bischoff could make that show double its number. Period. Nielsen ratings, Eric Bischoff by far. And the funny thing about it is ownership and upper management for WWE, they know it.
Jerry Hood. Jerry Hood. You got The Young Rock, which is a very popular show now based on the life and times of The Rock, loosely, whatever. Imagine we could do a movie, but we could also do a Netflix series, and we call it Buff. Imagine the life and times of Marcus Alexander Bagwell as a weekly program or binge watch as multiple episodes and seasons, and the stories and the things that this man went through, like the multiple careers he had and the multiple identities he had. You can't make this stuff up. The script writes itself practically. This would be must watch TV. You put Buff, executive producer, he gives the content to the writers. We put together a whole show for him. Buff's life needs to be a TV show for people that did not experience him from the beginning. See where this man came through his eyes, the people that were not backstage, the people that were not with him off camera, from the highs and the lows back to the highs again. This would be must-watch TV. I'm telling you, it's got to happen.
Gosh, that would, whoever buys that show, buy in cheap. Another one of your good ideas that will make it. If someone would listen, the money would roll in.
The money would print itself, literally.
It would, My agent said the other day at lunch, whoever comes with that idea, and that being you, and backs the money, which would not be me, I've had to be partly your company, it would, to sell that to them, we're getting into the billions, lots of viewers, and with the marketing, you're into the billions by far. So who knows? What do I know?
Well, I can tell you, in the underside of things, I got my book launching in the fall, and more details to come. Not wrestling, not baseball. It's a lifestyle book. It's a lifestyle handbook on how to live the best life that you can live. And they come to me, and hopefully it takes off, and we do book tours and signings, etc. And people say, "So what's up next?" I would tell them, the first things is, and I've talked to Mark a little bit about it, is a Mark book. Or I haven't pitched it to him yet, but you know what? He's hinted upon it. He's said it before many times, a Mark Bagwell movie. But I think about it, I can see it on Netflix really, really easy. So it's just getting the right people involved. I know DDP has the connections for it. He's got the brains for it. And, the more Mark rises up in real life and people love to see rebuilt and as a hero, I'm telling you, his life story has to be told. So I hope for Mark that's going to happen one day. And the people that are most going to benefit from it are the fans, because it's going to be great TV. Now, Jerry Hood, as we sum up today's episode and today's chapter, I got to ask you now, with Lex Luger, You recall your first interaction with him, and you know how far back off top of your head that him and Mark do go back. Like, how did this? Again, these are two people that you would think would be at each other's throats. Like, as far as two alpha males, two jack guys, each one wants a spotlight. How did these two come to be? Can you share that with us?
I don't know how that came about, but I know it started in 91 or 92. And they grew a little bit there and became really good friends. And like you said, two alpha males, but it didn't matter. They clicked from the word go. Lex was a great wrestler, um, a great person, and Mark was a great person, but not a great wrestler yet. And I think from watching and learning from Lex and watching and learning from Sting, he became better. And from there, they became friends and even friends of the family, with the Mark's older brothers and owning the car dealerships. I know Lex came down and bought, I remember like it was yesterday, a royal blue 1997 Eddie Bauer Expedition four-wheel drive. Lex will correct me on that if it's wrong, but I'm pretty sure. I'm 99.9 for sure. Nobody had Eddie Bauer Expedition, and we had about 20 of them on our family's lot. And he got one. DDP got the exact same one. They were matching. I don't think Lex ever knew it, but he didn't care. But everybody, Lex, by far, my aunt was a big fan. God rest her soul, Judy Bagwell. She loved Lex. Lex loved her. And you said something that stuck in my mind is with Mark. There's no in between with Mark. You're right. You either hate him or you like him. There was no, well, he's okay, but the ones that did know him or do know him, they're like, wait a minute, he's actually a pretty good guy. And I think that's what Lex thought it was a baby face coming in with a loud mouth, to hear some of the stories maybe, but they click, they still do. And Lex, by far, taking Mark under his wing. I know Marcus is very thankful for that. And that's all I really got about Lex. Those guys travel so much. And back in that day, back in the early 90s, I was broke and young and babies running everywhere. And it was tough for me to travel back then, although I did some, as you know, some of the stories. But I wish I could have gotten to travel more a little bit with Lex and Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner, of course. Me and Rick, we deer hunted a little bit together, did some stuff like that, so it was fun. But uh, but yeah, for sure, Lex, class act, world champion, will always be class act to me and a world champion. And I know Marcus, feels the same way.
Rick Steiner lives in what state?
He lives here with us in Georgia. He's not too far from the farm. He lives a little bit north of Atlanta, and I think he's now in a little city called Canton, Canton, or Woodstock. He's somewhere in that vicinity, and he's doing real estate, residential and commercial real estate. And the slogan is, "Who do you know?" And he's a trip. He's a big hunter, big outdoorsman. I wish he would take me to Michigan deer hunting with him. We're going to try to see if we can arrange that. But
Jerry
yeah,
Hood,
Rick's. Yeah,
I gotta ask you, is there any coincidence that you got Buff Bagwell, DDP, Lex Luger, Dusty Rhodes, Rick Steiner? Besides being in wrestling, what do they all have in common? Georgia.
the Georgia boys.
All of them loyal, all of them hardworking, all of them gentlemen. I never realized that connection until now that it's that deep. But Lex was also living in Georgia, correct?
Correct.
I don't think
Where
that's
was Lex?
what
Lex was in Roswell.
what is it about Georgia and Georgia wrestling that so many gentlemen come out of this state?
Ted Turner and Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And the one of the originals, Bob Armstrong, which Jesse James, that's Jesse James, the road dog. That's his dad. Bob
You
Armstrong
ought
was a
to
wrestler.
know.
You don't know. You don't know. Your ass better call somebody. But Bob Armstrong, his name was Pep James. That was his stage name. Bob Armstrong was a firefighter here in my hometown for Cobb County and a professional wrestler and best friends with my father and Buff Bagwell's daddy, Buff Daddy's daddy, Big Steve. And they're from Georgia. I think Tommy Rich is originally from Georgia. I know he's got some ties maybe over in Arizona and stuff like that, but I think Tommy. I mean, I can go on and keep naming them, and
But what
you know,
is it about Georgia that produces these well-rounded, athletic, proper gentlemen?
it's in the water, bro. I don't know. I don't know.
We'll leave it at that for now. It's in the water, folks. So, Jerry Hood, thank you as always. You put in your time and sharing the stories, and it was so great to hear about Eric and Conrad and bringing Buff and talking about Lex and the fact that Lex has had on Buff Bagwell's career. And next week, I got a big surprise for you for that chapter. So stay tuned as we come back to the real Mark Bagwell, a wrestling docuseries.
Peace out.